so much for coming back to this week's episode of Coffee Chats with Kat. This is a really heartfelt conversation that I'm going to be having, and I'm just really, really grateful that Ari and Jodie are like entering into this space and talking about diversity and inclusivity within like the in-person conference here with me. A couple of things that we wanted to bring up initially. So first of all, you should have seen how long it took us to get this conversation technology-wise started on our end to record this. Quite a few little tech glitches here. So hopefully everything goes well while we're having this conversation. We're just going to say progress over perfection.
Yes.
And dive into it. We're just going for it. Audio should be fine, but if our pictures blur out a little bit, we just hope that you will forgive us for that. We are excited to talk to you guys about this because this is a really important conversation to have. And personally, I believe that this is an important conversation to have like in a safe space. So we wanted to cultivate a space that allowed us to just ask hard questions and get perspectives from each other on what this looks like, what this doesn't look like, and just show from our own experiences. This conversation could potentially be a hard one to have because I feel like we can judge one another, we can misunderstand one another, we can not understand just heart and intent behind the conversation. And so we really want to enter in this like kind of laying those judgments aside. And if we do misunderstand something, asking questions to clarify, to learn and grow from one another. So that's like our heart behind this. We're not entering into this conversation saying like, we're experts. We know everything on diversity and inclusivity. We do not by any means. We're having this conversation not to teach, but to invite. We really want this to be that safe space. And so we wanted to have it publicly so you all could then reach out to us, ask us questions, and enter into the conversation with us. So before we get into all the questions, I did want you guys to get to know them a little bit and also understand all of our perspectives and backgrounds within diversity and inclusivity. Because whether we like it or not, we have a bias when it comes to this topic based on how we were raised, who we surround ourselves with, like so many things are a part of that. So we thought it would be really helpful for you guys to understand like who we are a little bit within this sphere, and then we can get into some of the questions. So I don't know who wants to start, Ari or Jodie. I don't know who wants to jump in first, but whoever wants to, go ahead.
Ari, yeah.
So I am from Durham, North Carolina. So I just a brief background. I have been surrounded around all different types of people from when I was younger. I mean, I did dance. I was one of two Black girls when I danced, and I did gymnastics. I was the only Black girl when I did gymnastics. But then I did rec league basketball at the same time in the project. So it was like two extremes that my parents had me in. I went to a diverse elementary and middle school, and then in high school I went to an all Black high school. And I would say there, I didn't really have a good experience. So when I went to college, I was very passionate about going to a diverse school for college. And at the time, I went to Temple University. So at the time, it was the #1 diverse school in the country. And that's really where I just strived to meet. I really didn't see color. I was friends with everyone. I had Asian friends, I had Black friends, I had white friends. So really, I feel like I've always been surrounded by it, immersed in it, and that's just how I see it. So I see it's very simple. It's not that difficult. People are people at the end of the day. So, but that's just a little background about me. And I do senior portraits. That's what I specialize in. And I have a very diverse clientele base, even outside of senior portraits. So yeah, that's just a little bit about me.
Awesome, thank you. Jodie?
Yes, can you see me good? Because I can't see you anymore, Kat.
Oh goodness. Well,
okay, there you are. You are. You're there. Okay. So I am Jodie Brim. I am a photographer, but also first a wife and a mom. My background, oh gosh, I feel like kind of similar to Ari. Grew up with people from all walks of life later on in life. Early on, pretty much there wasn't a lot of diversity for me in the beginning, like, elementary school up into middle school. And then high school, similar to Ari, I went to a predominantly white high school in Clemens. And then I went to an HBCU, historically black college university. I'm an Aggie pride is what we say. And then I went to a predominantly white college for my grad program. So, and that was High Point University. So, and then I studied abroad in Guadalajara. So it's always been in me to love different cultures. I love different backgrounds, not just, like we see color, but it's not that it matters. We look at the heart of people. Ari and I are very big on energy with people. So it kind of just happens organically and naturally with the type of people that we attract, which just happen to be from different cultures, which brings a different perspective, which kind of just naturally creates a diverse community. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing. So my background, predominantly white schools, raised in a predominantly white area. So very opposite, I feel like, of the two of you. So for me, it wasn't, diversity and inclusivity was not something that I was surrounded with. And it doesn't, I'm not using that as an excuse. It was not something that I was surrounded with. For me, my intent and like my heart for diversity and inclusivity actually stemmed from like a faith perspective, because I am a Christian. So it was like, well, Jesus tells me to love everyone. I want to love everyone. I want to serve people. Like, so I want to love and serve everyone. So for me, that seemed very natural to me. Like, well, of course. I don't want to look at skin color. I don't want to look at, other ethnicities and things like that. I want to just see people as people. So it just wasn't something that I was surrounded with all the time. When I started the conference, the Creative at Heart conference, back in 2016, we actually had a really public outcry for our lack of diversity specifically in our educator lineup. And that was a huge moment for me, both personally and professionally. I look back at the 2016 season and I see where I had a lot to learn when it comes to diversity and inclusivity, specifically like the visible diversity of our educators. And I know we're going to talk about that a little bit. And so I, at that time, felt very ashamed that my heart wasn't showcasing and that the lineup, our educator lineup, wasn't showing the diversity that I desperately wanted our conference to like embody and our just organization to embody. So for the last few years, it's been a priority for me to learn more and to try to grow even further, like in that area within the diversity and inclusion realm. And I know recently we connected on this specific topic. Like I literally emailed you guys and said, can we talk about this? I know this is a weird email to get, but let's talk about it. Because it is something that I continually want to learn and grow in. And so I'm super grateful that you guys were transparent enough to jump on that like private call with me and now say like, okay, let's have a conversation publicly for everyone to talk about this. One thing that we do all have in common that I'll make sure I want everybody else to know is that you all have a conference as well. Like you guys co-host Born to Shine. So not only like, so I feel like that's a good connector for us, like the three of us, of we have these actual conference organizations that we want to showcase diversity and inclusivity, but obviously, as y'all just heard, like our perspectives are so different on it. So how can we bring that together and learn from one another to both create organizations that do showcase that heart that we have for diversity and inclusivity?
Absolutely.
I love it. So, okay, let's just dive in then. Let's jump right into some of these things that we wanted to talk about. And again, we're going to talk specifically about, just for everyone listening, we're going to talk specifically about diversity and inclusivity within the conference, like in-person conference space, because that is our commonality, like the three of us. However, I do think that some of the things that we're talking about are absolutely applicable and just hopefully enlightening conversation for you all to listen to, even if you don't host an in-person experience or have no desire to like host your own conference. Let's start with, again, I mentioned in 2016 what happened with our educators and like that visible diversity. And obviously there are so many different aspects of diversity and inclusivity, and we're going to talk about quite a few. But let's start with the visible diversity. And how did that impact y'all's decision with your educators for the past Born to Shine and for like future conferences that you all host?
So do you want to talk, Jodie, or do you want me to start?
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
So it came very natural for us. We go based off of who is the best at what they do. So for instance, we not only wanted to have, so I'll back up. For this conference, we wanted to focus on photography, but we wanted to also focus on the overall business and what it takes to run a successful business. So we had different categories. So we had, her name is Sydney, and she is a yoga instructor. She's a muralist, but she does these very intense exercises that brings you together and really hones in on who you are as a person and connecting with others in a very powerful way. And she is white. I've never met anyone like her before. So I was like, we have to have Sydney at our conference. People will connect instantly when she does her exercises at the conference. And then
she's
so
such a light. She's such a bright light.
Everyone,
we look for those bright lights.
You have to give everyone her information because she's
okay, we can do that.
Yeah. And then like our accountant, we had so many people don't know about taxes. They don't know about the accounting side of a business. So she's Indian. So we had her come in, and then we had Amber. Amber is biracial. She does brand strategy, and she's the best at what she does. She's improved my business. She's improved Jodie's business. I mean, she's incredible. So just as a whole, if you want to talk about how we had Hope as a headliner.
Yeah, like Hope, that was so, like, I have followed Hope since she started. So that was easy. That was an easy pick because she's killing it. She's a boss. She is what we want people to exemplify. We want people to learn those strategies. That girl is smart. So it wasn't, it's not, we're not picking people because of their race. We're picking people because they are experts at what they do.
And if you look at it, how we were talking about before, Jodie, on inclusivity, like the age ranges of our speakers, Hope is in her 20s, and then we had speakers that are in their 40s. So we didn't even think about that. It was just who's killing it in this realm, and who do we know that will deliver and make a difference at our conference. And it was those people. We didn't look at any race.
We did not. We didn't have that one conversation regarding like, okay, we need to have this for this. Like it was really simple. I don't know. I don't even know how to articulate it because it's that simple. It was natural. It was relationships that we've built. I didn't know Hope personally, but I have always admired her work. I didn't know a lot of the speakers personally, but I admired what they're doing within their communities and their platforms and how they're using their platforms, how they're using their voice for good, for positive, sharing their truth so people can relate. We think about like how the energy is going to be in the room. And I am a Christian, and I am always wanting to exemplify the love of Christ. And that love, no one can explain. Like if you ask anybody that went to our conference, it was so much love in that room. And every single speaker gave so much of their hearts, and it didn't matter what background they were from. You know what I mean? Like they just, I just want to relive it again, Ari.
It was
so good. And I just love that it was diverse in their own regard, like different, like the cultural aspect too. Like we had people, like you said, I was an Indian person. I'm not even thinking about that though. I don't want to touch on just their ethnicity. It's really about how did they help make an impact. That's what people have to get away from. Like, it's not all about that. It's really about how can you help change, well, we're picking educators. How can you help change these people's lives? How can you transform their lives? We're not thinking about a percentage of people that should be XYZ. Like, if you're thinking about that, you're part of the problem. Like, that is not where we should even be going. I'm getting like, a little excited about it. So I'm just because it's beyond that. It's beyond that.
So let me ask though, like kind of a follow up, because I know that, and obviously I like appreciate all of this. Like we've had private conversations about this where I believe it's very, very similar to y'all, where like I want to, yes, showcase visible diversity in terms of I want people to look at an educator lineup and see people that look like them so they feel
Absolutely.
even more welcome and even more at home in a space. But I also care about what they're bringing to the table, and I care about their stories and their background and like how different collectively we are, and when we're together we're like so much stronger when we bring all of these differences to the table. So yes to all of the things that you guys said. Practically speaking though, I guess what I would love, because you guys mentioned that you didn't know all of your speakers, and I don't typically know all of the creative, like in the very beginning, years and years ago, yes. Now as it's evolved, I do not know all of the speakers. So how are you then finding people that still showcase visible diversity, right? Because that does add to the backgrounds and the stories that they're bringing to the table. Is it just like, how are you sourcing those educators and finding people?
I knew mostly everyone. I know Jodie didn't know personally everyone. I mean, I didn't know personally everyone, but I knew of them from other people. So, and I've been watching them, over Instagram through those other people that I know them through over the years. Like, again, Nisha, she is the Indian, and she's the accountant. I've been watching her, and a mutual friend has told me about her years ago. So, and she is doing major things in the community in Charlotte and worldwide. So like for her, and then it's really been based off like who knows someone. It's been like a connector, and then just watching them over the years. So they're very comfortable, and so that's why I felt confident to ask them.
So make it a priority to have those personal connections, like outside of
absolutely
be a speaker or a call for speaker applications, like saying like, how can I potentially like get out of my comfort zone and get to know new people. It doesn't matter what those people look like, but just get to know new people to like bring in those stories.
I think it's I definitely agree with that. Go ahead, Ari. I'm sorry.
I want to say pay attention to people that who know other who have a diverse clientele or just base in general. Like, who are those people that who's that mutual person, and then just kind of follow them, get more knowledge about them, and go about it that way.
I was just going to say too, and add into that, building your community through other creatives. I know that I'm big on relationships. Ari's big, I'm sure you are too, Kat. Big on just building relationships. And our conference, it's different. Creative at Heart is just a much larger scale. So it's sometimes I don't know how realistic that is, because for me personally, I haven't even talked to this about with Ari. Like, I want to make sure I talk to and feel a good vibe and feel a good energy. I trusted my best friend here because she knew people that I didn't know. But if she didn't know anybody and I didn't know anybody, I don't know how comfortable I would be with that. Like, I don't know, because I am big on energy. Like, that's why I want to talk to all of my clients before I work with them. So I don't know, that can be a little challenging maybe, but just, because if you're going, just not saying just you, just in general conferences, like if they just picked it through applications, people, if you're just looking at somebody on paper, but I want to hear them, I want to feel them, I want to watch them for a while before I even say yes,
Definitely all the time.
And I think that there's a way that we can mold that. So like, this is the first year that Creative at Heart will be doing like a call for applications. And my hope with that is to just get more voices and more faces for me to be able to say like they are interested in speaking, right? Like they do have this platform and this is their expertise, and like, does this work with our conference environment? But for me, I'm hoping to, and again, this is our first year doing it, so it will be a learning experience for me, like my own workflow of walking through how this looks. but I'm not playing. It's not going to be a like, let me just read every online application.
Yeah.
And, like, best five.
Yeah.
Like, you know, there's video content that's required within the application. So I can like hear them, see them, like that sort of thing. Hop on with them. Like I can continue to have conversations outside of this one like 10 question application.
Right.
And I think just like you're saying, like that's what's so important, because
it is.
For all of us, like these conferences, like they're our babies in a sense, right?
Yeah.
We're pouring so much of our heart and energy and time into it. And we're crafting this brand message, and our educators are lining up right alongside of us to push that brand message out to the attendees. And so we want it to be a good fit all the way around. I think that is like such a good point to bring up, and like really, really important when thinking about your educators just in general, outside of what they look like. That's just that's part of what we think about.
Agreed.
Yeah. So I want to talk about something else, and that we've talked about this before, but this has happened to me as a conference host, and I would love to get y'all's feedback on if this has happened to you. But how do you respond, or have you ever had educators feel tokenized? So when thinking through, again, I do want there to be visible diversity. I want so that our attendees, our potential attendees, will look at the website and see somebody that looks like them. Like that is very important to me. So how do you go about, or is there a way to go about doing that within those educators so that they don't feel like they're a checkbox? And they don't feel like the percentage and like, oh, Kat just asked me for this, or oh, Ari and Jodie just asked me for this, because that's clearly not the heart.
Yeah.
Just that. There's so many other aspects that fall into why we ask our educators to be educators. But I know being tokenized, like that's something that's conversations that I've had before and I've heard come up, and I'd love to chat about that with y'all.
Yeah.
I don't know how to answer that.
I'm thinking because. Go ahead, Ari.
I don't think that we've had that issue. I mean, this being our first conference, Jodie, do you think we had that issue at all?
I think that comes from your life experience. Like, I don't see it that way. I don't see the world that way. I see it as I got chosen because I deserve this. Like, if I applied to be a speaker at Creative at Heart, I would not feel that way, because I don't feel like that is what you represent. I don't feel like that's something just part of your brand and part of you, Kat. I wouldn't, just quickly learning about you and what I've seen and how you use your voice, I wouldn't think that. So I wouldn't connect with that.
Yeah. I think that's unfortunate, honestly. If
it is, like, that's something on that person.
Yeah. Do you think that, well, I had a past educator give what I felt like was really awesome feedback on, like, okay, here's how to potentially avoid educators feeling this way. Because I love what you said about it does come from past experiences. So there is a part of that is a mindset part, to where I have to hope that my heart and my mindset is being like clearly perceived to this person. And I have to hope that they are then responding in the right way and knowing that like it's because of they're awesome. That's why I want them to get there's a variety of reasons, like hope that they believe that. So yes, there's like the trust and like the mindset part. And then there's also I think a proactive thing, and that this particular educator shared with me that I love, that we've touched on, with just widening your circle. And I'm sure y'all do this with your conference, but I know I'm not actively looking for speakers like every single week, right? It's like you get in seasons where you're like, okay, now I'm gonna look at speakers. I'm going to look back at surveys. I'm going to source like and see what my people want to hear. Who do I have? Who do I need? Like, what am I doing? And this particular person shared with me, rather than doing it so sporadically like that, making just it an effort on my part on a weekly basis to respond and hang out with people on Instagram, like literally just making it social. So like, yes, I might see somebody and I'm not sourcing educators, so I just follow them and like kind of screenshots, like save for later. And I'll like things every now and then, but I'm not like actively in their DMs. I'm not like responding to it. I'm not talking about every single feed post. I just pop in every now and then, but like being active on my end. So like, no, I want them to know that like I genuinely like them. Like I'm genuinely interested in following them and getting to know
that
them.
makes all the difference.
And that's just good business in general. Like, right, we should use Instagram to be social. And I love that advice when thinking about the educators. And because we've talked about like the diversity, like the visible diversity aspect, if I am reaching out to women that don't look like me, to men that are different from me, like then let me show them that it's more than just because of what they look like. There's other reasons by having conversation and communicating with them.
I mean, that you hit it. That's it, because it's relational. And I think about like whenever I have something coming up or a person that might sell a product, if they message someone that they haven't talked to since high school, you know it's not genuine. You just want them to buy something.
We all get those Facebook
you know, God.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, you know, you just want something from me, and it's not, you can feel that. Your heart can feel that energy. And so when you make that time and invest, like, it makes a difference so people won't feel that way. I 100% completely agree with that. And that I do have events like throughout the year that I intentionally do to build people, like build the community, and it's free stuff. And I want people from Instagram, like I invite them, like I personally go and I will DM some people. Now there's a list that I have like for events to be notified, but if it's somebody I'm really interested, I will personally send them an invitation, and so we can meet up and we can, you know, build a relationship. That's how we get to where we are. I mean, it's building relationships, period.
I love it. So then outside of educators then, just inclusivity in general. I know we wanted to bring that up and just talk about that within our conferences, our just brands as a whole, and what that looks like. I know you've said so many times throughout this conversation, Jodie, like relationships, like that's what's important. Like I need good energy, all relational.
Yes.
So what are some things that you guys are doing or have done or have thought through about just inclusivity as a whole, so that when your people are there at the conference or gearing up for the conference, like it feels like everyone really is accepted and invited, like in this space?
So we had a welcome party, and the welcome party, we really wanted that to set the tone. So we literally, if people were not, well, first of all, we had people, again, even attendees from all different age ranges come. So if there was someone that we saw, Jodie or I, we literally went up to them and we were like, you better go talk to somebody. We talked to them, but we're like, after we stopped talking, we better see you go and talk to someone. And they did. And that is set the tone. Like I've been to so much stuff. I mean, so many conferences and stuff, you know, they have welcome parties, they have ending parties, whatever. But we're like, we have got to have this welcome party truly represent who we are and just be a kickstart for the rest of the weekend. And so in those people that we literally went to go speak to, they felt that love and they were so happy. And these are like extreme introverts.
Yes.
They were so happy that we went and we told them to go talk to someone because people were receptive. Everyone there was so kind, so gracious. So we just, throughout the whole entire weekend, not only at the welcome party, we made everyone feel included because that, I mean, you know, Jodie, I'm more introverted than Jodie is. So it was just a big reason why I thought the conference would be such a great idea, because there's so many introverts and from all different walks of life, and just to make you feel at home. And that's what we really wanted, to feel at home.
So. I love that. I love it's basically just giving everybody truly a personal invitation. Like, hey, I want you to be here. We're glad you're here. So now go make some friends. Like, go talk to more people. Like, you can do it. I'm cheering for you. Like, go do this. I love
it. We seriously had a role play. I had a role play with one girl, and I said, so what are you going to say to them? Like, and then so I gave them, this is what I say. You know, like when I'm trying to network with, like, just to give like a little icebreaker. Yeah. It was good. It was good. And Ari and I, we love to dance. So I felt like it helped people to know that there's no judgment here. We're not perfect. Ari revealed something very, 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 very personal that was funny in a way that could have really embarrassed me, but I really don't care. But that's on another conversation.
We weren't gonna
But
beat it up anymore. That was in the past.
but I didn't say anything. But everyone died laughing, and it felt like, wow, these girls are really real. Like they're real, just kind of making people feel comfortable through being vulnerable and sharing like our truth,
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's so smart. I feel like that's what we can all do, right? Is just
Yeah.
show, like, in being vulnerable, hopefully it will allow other people to not only feel vulnerable, but just feel like they can be more themselves, whether that's
Yes.
being vulnerable or through not being vulnerable. They just feel like I am allowed to be here, quote unquote, allowed to be like
Right.
I'm welcomed in this space.
Right.
I know
Absolutely.
that is like when you said home, like that very much like is a part of the Creative at Heart brand. Like that's how we
Yeah.
want people to feel. And so that's something that like over the last few years, it's been so much of a priority for us, not only in like legit brand voice of like welcome home, like literally saying certain things, but also in like imagery and then other like language and copy and video that we use, just really wanting people to feel like when you're here, just be you, like just whatever that is. And for us wanting to be inclusive, it can be just like you said, it can feel like, well, we have to have do all of these certain things. But I like, Ari, coming back to what you said at the beginning about like, it can just be simple. Like it can just simply just be like, you're just inviting people in. You just have to welcome people. Yes, we want to be I can't talk. Cautious, not cautious, cautious. We want to be cautious. We want to be conscious of the visible diversity and of like specific, again, like tangible, actionable ways like we can be more inclusive. But it also comes down to like just simply saying like, yes, I want you to be here. Please come into this space like with us.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you guys so much for sharing. This has been just super awesome to have such a transparent conversation about this. As we wrap up, is there like anything else that you all want to share? Or, like any last that you're like, wait, I want to make sure this is said before this conversation ends.
Anything, Ari?
No, everything is simple. We do not
It is very simple.
Anything at all. Like just be the best person you can be at all times.
Yeah.
That's how I believe that Jodie and I see life. So we really try to display that through everything we do, our conference, our own businesses. So just always think it's very simple.
And I would say, and be kind, make relationships with people from all walks of life. Try to, if there's a bias, try to just see past, societal things and just talk to people and connect with people. And there's going to be somebody, if you talk to 10 people a month, there's going to be at least one person you connect with that's from a different walk of life than you. And then it builds, So it's simple. Don't complicate it. Just build relationships and make new friends.
I love it. Thank you guys so much. To everybody like watching this, I'm going to make sure that Ari and Jodie's info is like linked below. And I know you mentioned Sydney. It was Sydney, right?
Yeah.
We had to share. Okay, we'll share that too.
I can send you over her Instagram and her website.
Okay, perfect. We'll make sure we link that too. And I hope that this has been just like insightful for everybody watching. If you're watching and you're like specifically a part of the Creative at Heart community, I want y'all to know that like I'm very much open to like continuing this conversation with anyone who wants to have this conversation with me. Diversity and inclusivity is something that like we're constantly learning and growing in, and excited about what the future holds for our conference space, like within diversity and inclusivity. I know that in the past, people have been hurt by potentially a lack of visible diversity, like some of those things that we touched on. And so I hope that this just showcases like our heart a little bit more for this, and just lets y'all know that we do want to have this conversation. And I'm excited that we got to have this conversation here.
Yay.
Thank you for having us, Kat.
Thanks for having us
so much. I really appreciate it. And I'll see everybody next week.